with you another workshop. What I have with me here is a cardboard sculpture that's actually a whimsical design made out of cardboard and some construction paper, and has kind of like an animal-like quality to it. It has some text and some interesting play on color. And behind me is one of my oil canvases. This is a painting I made many years ago when I lived in New York. It was from 1989. That kind of a clown painting, influenced from my trip I took when I was in Japan in 1988 on a cultural exchange and arts residency. But today we're going to work with cardboard sculpture and working with a couple materials we'll need to have at our ready. Since we're working with kind of a three-dimensional design, we're going to need a pair of scissors to cut and to work with cardboard. We can also use cardboard of different types. This is actually cardboard that comes in the mail. It's very thin. We can cut this down. This is actually what I used to make this sculpture. And we can look at this in a lot of different ways. We're going to use kind of an X shape to build it. And we're going to actually see that in a minute again. So we have cardboard. It can be very thin. It can be flexible. You can also have different kinds of cardboard. If you go to the supermarket and you had a list of supplies you could pick up, things that you can find, recyclable items, things that you might be able to get that are boxes, Amazon boxes that you might have utilized at one point. I went over to my local supermarket and I found a display as corrugated cardboard. It actually is printed on one side, which makes it fun, and it's just old-fashioned cardboard. So we can use cardboard. I'll cut another big piece. Here's some cardboard here. And you can go to the dollar store. You can get a glue stick if you'd like. A little glue stick is good, or a pack of some markers. Crayola markers can be helpful. And also a little pack of construction paper, which I have chosen 3 colors, like a orange, a red, and a green. Now this is a slightly different type of color that you may find in your packs, but I think it'll work fine for what we want to do. I just wanted to share with you today is cardboard sculpture using recycled materials, and also using scissors and construction paper and glue. And also, if you want to, you have around a little spool of Scotch tape, which can be helpful. Scotch tape is also a great tool because it helps us to fix things together, especially if I'm working with this and I have 2 pieces of cardboard. I can easily just put a piece of clear Scotch tape, and immediately I have a little book, and it just kind of holds like that. You might be able to utilize that too on this workshop. So my name again is David Cunningham. I'm a visiting artist with the Splash program, and I've been invited now this month of September 2020 to have an encounter with sculpture. This is a project I made a couple of months ago through Mosaic Community Services here in Baltimore, and I thought it would be really great to share with a similar prototype, sort of design for you guys. I like it because it reminds me of a figure, but it also is very playful in the fact that it could be, a little person. And I also like the way it kind of blends in the background with my painting, which kind of makes it kind of fun place in which to share. But, the real connection is the fact that it's lightweight, it can stand up on its own, and we want to make sure that whatever we make can hold up on its own. I'm also, one of the things that I've been encouraging over the last 3 workshops is the fact that I want it to be your own. You can use my techniques, but most importantly, not to copy me so much, but to also, if there's a part of it where you can make it very much your own and say, I have permission to do that? Yes, you have permission to do that. Give it a try. The most important thing is that we want to make sure that it can stand up on the platform by itself and not tip over. And that might mean that we need to shore it up a little bit, and that's what we can do during this workshop. This workshop is about an hour, and we'll get a chance to explore and work with this. As a visual artist, I like working with color, but I also like working with shapes. So let's take a look at our beginning. I'm going to take a piece of cardboard. This is actually from like pet supplies. It gets ordered. It's like in between packaging. It's very thin cardboard. You can't even really And I'm just going to take my marker, and my marker can help me because I will make a line before we actually do any cutting. So the first step is I'm going to take a marker, I'm going to make a line. And essentially, we can cut this down in the middle. I'm going to cut this. But at the same time, I'm interested in making little slits. So I'm going to make a line here, and a line here. So we're going to actually cut this in half, and we're going to cut little slits. They're, I don't know, like maybe an inch in, from here. And it'll be kind of fun to see how we can do that. So let's try this first technique. We're going to get started to orient ourselves in three-dimensional design and cardboard sculpture, and we can make a very playful shape. So the first step is we have a line. We're going to cut straight through with our scissors. Okay. By doing this, we'll actually have two shapes, one like this, and one like this. I like the idea of we can actually snip this into place, but also we're going to think in terms of how this is going to be. So let's see if this works. We'll cut here, cut here. I made little slits here, so we're cutting just down to that point. Wherever you make your line, we may need to cut a little longer, but let's see how this goes. I'm going to take this one, cut here, cut here. Now the idea of having slits saves us from having to work with too much glue or anything in the beginning. But we can actually play with this, because a lot of times you'll see cardboard that actually does things like this too. So we've taken the shape and we've made a little like a bat shape out of it, but it interlocks. So if we lay this down on the platform, look what we have here. We already have a form. We've actually taken the cardboard and we've made an interlocking shape. By literally sliding it into one another, we have this form. So if I put it here on the platform and turn it around, we actually have a three-dimensional sculpture. This is very similar to artwork made in the 1970s, where the artists would work with steel and they would build like gigantic installations working with abstract shapes using weight shape. But we're making what looks like to be like a little model. We're going to play with this and see how this can go. So I'm not completely satisfied with that. So what else do you think we can do to make this even better? Do we want to bring it all the way down so we can rest it? I think it's going to be important that we cut this to make it even deeper, a deeper incision into the cardboard. Not to cut all the way through, but just to get down a little bit, make it a little bit longer. And that's going to make it much, much better for us to slide this in. I'm going to slide it all the way in to the point where it meets up like that. So at this point, I've cut it a little longer. I've cut this one a little longer. And what we want to do is slide them in. Slide them in to such a degree that they actually meet up, and at the very end they stop. We want to keep them completely connected, so it actually rests very flat. It's hard to see that, I know, on the screen, but together they would do that. So we can rest it like this. So I have a shape like this again, except it's completely flat against one another, and it's sitting down in the middle of the paper here. So I'm going to turn it around so you can see the light will see it from different angles. Okay. So what do I want to do with this? I want to fix this in a position. I'm going to take my Scotch tape, take one piece at a time, and I'm going to go in the middle of it, and I'm going to put a Scotch tape piece right in the middle. The point where it's just right in there. It actually is affixed so that both sides have a piece of tape so this will not move around. We don't want this to move around the whole time. We want to make sure it stays flat on the table and it's right there. So the beautiful thing about working with materials like this, number one, they're recycled. And number two, we're using our creative intellect and our creative problem solving skill sets that we acquire over life and in our creative pursuits to find a cool way, to make something come to life. I'm doing this again on the other side. There's one side here, and then there's another side here, and then there's one more side here. There are three little areas that'll need a bit of tape. The Scotch tape is kind of neat. It's very inexpensive. You can pick this up at the dollar store too, and you'll have something to play with for a long time, depending on how many of these you make. But I love the idea of a sculpture because sometimes when you have a party or a little event, the cool thing is that you can have this cool centerpiece, like a kid's party, you make a party or a birthday party, you have something with friends. You can do a cool thing. This becomes like a group project, and you could just build this thing and get all kinds of cool stuff going on with it. Now, if you pick up a marker, like these Crayola markers, these can be great. You can actually add to it. Now that the Scotch tape is in place, if I want to, I can make a little drawing, make a little design on it if I want to. I'm just going to put a little green marker work here. So you can see that I've done a little drawing on it already. Kind of cool. So I'm also going to bring you back to that little sculpture we had earlier. We kind of had this X shape here. You see how the X shape is on the bottom? So we also have an X shape here that we're making here. It's a little different, but it's similar. The reason why I'm doing that is because it will give us a base, a strong X shape as a base, so we can build on that. So it's kind of like we're trying to engineer the shape, so it's going to be a cool form. I'm also going to take some other cardboard. This is some of that nice heavier cardboard. I'm going to cut a square out. Okay, cut this. Yeah, I'm going to cut a shape like this. Okay, so let me draw it out for you. I'm going to cut a shape based on a half circle. Let's cut a half circle shape. Just draw it with your pencil and the cardboard, and then I'll cut it out. But I'm also going to put some slits in it too. The slits are going to be helpful. It kind of looks like a half smiley face. Bring it out. I'm so glad you can join me today because my thinking was that to be invited to offer workshops is really fun and we get a chance to explore ways that perhaps we've never done before. I've just cut this shape. It's cool because there's some printed material on the outside, which makes it really helpful and also neat as a creative person to say, you know what, that's just printed material. That's great. I'm also cutting some slits. So right in here, where I have my lines, is where I also cut. I don't want to cut too far, just enough. Because we're going to plop these down here, and this is going to make this so strong. What do I have here? Well, I have a little line here. That line also needs to get cut right there. So I'm going to cut that. A little slit here. And a little slit here. I'm going to cut this, and then I'm going to slide this right in. So we have our X shape. I'm going to slide this right in over my other slit, and then see what we can do here to bring it right into place. So I've taken my half circle and slid it in to my cardboard base. And then we have something that's solid. I'm going to turn it around. Moving angle. This is the bottom. It looks like that little bat shape again. And there it is. So I have my base. This This is really cool because one way I'm just using slits with cardboard, two different kinds of cardboard, mind you. You can use the same kind. This is just the materials that I happen to have around, but you're going to have your own materials too. And that's going to be very nice. It's just good to be able to, you know, have a way to explore. So what do we call this? We call this our base. The base will help us to build on this, and then we can have a lot of fun with the shape. Let's go back and show you the sample I had from before. Well, we have this curious sort of figure here with this flaming hair and this like a kind of, cartoon-like wig maybe, but then we have this hand that looks like it's like out there saying, "Hey man," kind of playful. And I'm using a lot of very interpretive shapes. I have an eye and a nose and a mouth. This whole area is like also slit together too. The head is attached to the neck, and the arm, the neck, and all these different shapes here. So this is one way cardboard sculpture can come alive. But of course, over the next 40 minutes, you're going to see this come to life in a unique way. So let's start thinking in terms of how we want to build this out. We have a couple of pieces of cardboard. You might want to use your pencil to draw that in. What kind of face do we want to make? Well, let's try to work with this. I'm going to draw on this, but I can also draw on this paper too, because it's going to be a little easier for you to see it if I draw it first here and then we'll look at it. So let's say I like to draw, I have like a neck, maybe a curious sort of eyeball, a little mouth or something like here. This is kind of a shape, so it looks like a round little circle. Then we have the neck, like a curious little mouth there. So I'm thinking in terms of, I want my head to be kind of like, it looks like a little bit like a chicken, but we can have fun with that. And I'll go over with the marker and play with it even more. So you can go at home and just see how this goes for you. Draw it out and see. So make like a little egg shape on its side, oval. Then inside you can make a little eyeball, however you want to make it. I'll make it on the side. We have a little nose coming in, and a little mouth. And then I made my little drawing. I'm gonna create something like this on the cardboard and cut it out. So it has an egg and two lines that come down to make the neck. One is wider at the top and it gets thin at the bottom. Then you can make these little triangles, a nose and a mouth. So the nose and the mouth are all together. The eye is another egg shaped, and then you curve that down to the point and go around like that. So we have an egg upright, slanted, and then an egg like this shape. And we have this, this possibility of working with a face. Now, the face is kind of cool because if you go back to this area, you have kind of like this face design, and here you see it. I did on both sides, which kind of makes it fun. So I'll let you look at that for a sec. One of the neat things I like about sculpture is that we can interpret with shape, which is what you see here, the cardboard. Then there's color, construction paper. We can work with graphic design, which relates to the repeat pattern and the color. These are things, and also the color of the cardboard, which is I like it very much. I don't need it necessarily need to be too plain or simple, but we can have a lot of fun. And then there are these shapes, the overlapping shapes. You can even add paint to this if you want to, but right now, the shape that I have here is very much in a form of my imagination, but it also looks like a horse or a person, just using all kinds of ways to have fun with the creative forms and playing with it. So I'm going to take my cardboard piece, and then after looking at my sketch, you can look at your paper with your drawing, and just freehand it on. Let's say, what do I have here? I have the oval. I drew an oval like that. I mean, mine looks a little different. It looks like a sunglass shape. I'm going to put my eyeball in here. A little shape in there. See how I did that? It's just like a little oval thing. And then I'm going to go back over here. Here. That's how I made my eyeball coming out. It goes a line here, and then put this around like that. So it has to look a little like an eyeball, and then I'll put my nose shape here. And then the cool part is I'm going to draw the neck. Remember, it's wide at the top, bottom, wide at the top, and the bottom. We're going to cut this out with scissors now. It's going to look a little bit like a turkey or a chicken or a person, but we can have a lot of fun with the fact that it's playful. It's another vocabulary word that I like to use in art terms. It's whimsical. W-H-I-M-S-I-C-A-L, whimsical, relates to a kind of a feeling of a free spirit, playful, relates to whimsy, a kind of a carefree, kind of a playful feeling, and relates to creativity, because that word relates very well to this project and this workshop. So it takes a little bit of time with scissors. If your cardboard is really thick, you might need someone to help you with some of the cuts. But if you take your time and just cut in sections, if your cardboard is thin, just take one section at a time and just cut it out. I'm used to cutting out with cardboard, and I think it may be a little bit more challenging for you guys at home, but just take one step at a time and just cut little bits at a time. When I'm usually thinking in terms of, if I use it, imagine this is a piece of wood and I'm using a jigsaw to cut out these shapes. I'm going to have to take my time and just take a little bit at a time, just cut one shape, and then come around, and use my scissor to just slightly cut. I can just take little nibs. I don't have to just try to do all big sections, but I know that that was a big one right there, and that was not an easy cut. But we're trying to get our shape. So, thanks for joining me today, folks, for giving this a try. As a visual artist, I love painting and sculpture, printmaking, drawing, and also mobile installation. I like working with a space where I can actually suspend material from a given area, like in the middle of a room or hanging from a tree. Pretty cool. Like the materials I use in that are oftentimes wire, pipe cleaners, paper mache materials, tissue paper, found objects, tape. But this project is cardboard. So we have one side here, which is so different. Look at all that yellow printing. I think this came from some type of sparkler in display for 4th of July. But look at it from here, 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 here. So even if we look at it in regards to the painting, like this is a whole different world back here. It also plays on the idea of color. And I like in this painting, the shapes. Like this looks like an outline of a white shape, and there's an eyeball here, a nose. It can be kind of playful. But I also think in terms of this, we have this playful shape here. So I'm going to take all my scraps that I haven't cut and keep them down on the ground to change things up a little bit so I can build this. Everything down on the ground. Start building this. We have our base. But the only way for this to really become strong is if I attach this to this. How do you think we're going to do that? How do you think it's going to be the best way to attach them? We could attach it to the lightweight cardboard, but I think both cardboards should be attached to one another. So we'll take the yellow round half circle. Remember how we made that half circle to look like a half smiley face? We'll just put this one together. We could put the head like that. Put the head like this. I think we'll have the head pointed outwards, so it looks like it's coming out towards the person. So I'm going to make a little slit, and the slit will be just a little bit not too much. I usually work with my marker here, so it makes it a lot easier for you to see it. Let's make a little slit. We're going to cut that with the scissor. And they're also going to cut this with the scissor too. So these two will actually live together and they'll slide into one another. So I'm going to take the scissor and make a little slit here, and I'm going to do the same with this. And the next part is sliding them into one another. Sliding them in takes a little bit of patience. For the fact that they're the same width of corrugated cardboard, just take a little bit of time. Just slide them in. You don't really need to use glue in this way, you just let it slide in there. Right now it wants to slide over. It wants to fall down on one side. So what's happening now is that our sculpture is a little bit top heavy. So because it's top heavy, we need to think in terms of how we're gonna stop that from doing that. So probably the best thing to do is to invite another little shape to come in, maybe that come in right through here that would stop it from doing that. But it is a nice start. It's a good start. You keep this kind of coming over here. Let it fall down for a second. We're going to think about how we can design that. So we'll take another piece of cardboard and we'll cut a half circle. I'm going to cut out another half circle to help with this because we don't want it to tip over. We want it to stay upright. Cut this one out. How's everything going with your project? If you want to, when you cut out that head, you can make it smaller if you'd like. So we have this shape. We also have this form too. And the best way to keep this from tipping over is to put another little design element here. We have this here, and we have this coming over here. So I'm going to make a little slit. So I'm going to take the side and then make a little slit right here on the side so I can keep this one. Just on the side like that. Make a little slit on the side. So even though this wants to fall down, I'm going to try to keep it from doing that by adding another little slit here. I'm going to bring it in a little bit so we have it. Just perhaps a little bit inside here. We see that slit. I'm going to cut it a little bit here. Put this right on the side. So I'm sliding the shape so it can actually rest more in keeping with this. so it holds up a little bit. It doesn't tip over. We just needed something to kind of, it looks like it could be the wing or something like that, but it holds it up. The most important thing with that sculpture is that we don't want it to fall over. So the most, so it gives us a little chance for this to stay upright. So that half circle is helpful in the fact that we've added it here, like a little slit. And you see, as this wants to tip over, this interrupts that weight of the cardboard. So it actually offers us another little like wing shape. And also we can start to see our design. So we're going to turn it around. Most important to take a look at it from every single angle. You can look at it from the bottom. It seems like it's holding up. It's not falling apart, which is a good thing. If your actual sculpture is starting to fall apart, you need to go back to those steps and see if you can recut the shape or make sure that the cardboard is well slides into each other. And think about two fingers, they slide into each other and they interlock. You can fiddle with it a little bit because it's not completely perfect, but it will stay in there pretty much for that. So the technique of interlocking shapes and using snipped corrugated cardboard helps us to get the sculpture started. But I think I also want to start to think in terms of my construction paper now. We're about halfway through our process, but I'm also thinking in terms of like color and shapes and forms. So I'm going to have fun with some of these shapes. Well, with the collage material. I have some orange construction paper I'm going to cut out. I'm just going to cut out some long strips like this and cut it out a little bit. I like long, thin shapes, so I'm going to try that for today. I'm going to invite you to get your glue stick out too, because the glue stick will be helpful for us this work. Let's see how we can work with these things. So put this right here. Take some glue. I'm going to take some glue and I'm going to glue it on the paper. Take some of the glue stick and I'm just going to put it right on the paper like that. And by doing that, I can also add a little dimensions, glue these together like this. Glue it here and here. Right where that slit came in, I just decided to put a little color right there, and so I'm going to add a bit more orange strips. So if you have a nice rigid surface, you can actually glue your paper on the tabletop with some nice newspaper underneath it to keep it from getting onto the nice furniture or the kitchen table, something like that. I like to put some collage elements on my cardboard, so I'm putting orange right here. So wherever you want, just cut out your shapes. They can be circles, squares, rectangles, zigzag shapes, whatever appeals to you, because as a creative thinker, I invite you to make your own process come to life. I'm just giving you some of the guidelines and techniques that help us to keep the cardboard so it behaves and holds on to its shape and not completely fall apart. So I'm actually taking some liberties with these colors and having fun with that. There I have my other side. My shape. I might want to turn this down a little bit around here so I can actually start to work on my face. I've got other colors here to play with too. I've got my olive, well, I have my Kelly green, my spring green here. I'm going to cut out a little eyeball shape. I like this little oval. I'm going to stick it with my eyeball area here. this around the eye a little bit. How about that? We're going to put the eye together here. Look at that. So we have this, this. Taking over the shapes here. We have yellow and this. So I'm starting to explore that. I can take my marker and I can add to this if I want to, which is also fun. Take my sculpture, go back in. Add the eyeball design if I want to. So I've taken my marker and I've accented the eye a little bit. So we actually have the head. We have this whole thing starting to come to life. By using some skills, and these are kind of cool in cartooning too, with some folks you might have learned from the cartoon workshop about different ways of working with the eyeballs and lines and stuff. But for me, I'm thinking in terms of I'm making a three-dimensional cardboard sculpture from recycled materials. And number one is to make sure that my sculpture is upright. Now the other thing that's kind of cool is that this looks like it could be like a chick or a baby, a mother bird looking over her young or something like that, but it's also very much a playful kind of design. So I'm going to take more of my orange paper. I'm going to cut rectangle slits out of it, and I'm going to put them everywhere around where the cardboard meets, especially where it connects, where I put the Scotch tape. I want to make sure I can reinforce those X shapes with some of this construction paper. How's everything going, folks? How's everything moving along? I hope things are moving along well for your project. The two things I can see that may be challenging is the weight of the cardboard and the size of your scissor. Obviously, at home, your scissors might be more safety scissors and they're smaller. But if you can work with a bigger scissor and you've got some strong grips or some help at home, you can also cut these. The construction paper has many different colors, and the Crayola crate or the pass-on paper is very good too. But you can pick that up very reasonably, and you can have a pack of that. And I just take the paper and I cut it into strips because I like cutting it into little rectangles and squares and things like that. Thanks for joining me today, folks. It's a lot of fun sharing with you. The most important thing is, as we work with the construction paper, is have a variety of colors. I've chosen like a lime green, magenta, kind of a red, and then a bright kind of tangerine orange. And I'm interested in these colors. I could have a lot of fun with repeating the pattern. You can say, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I'm not quite sure, not in this case. It's really, just think about where you are in this moment. Like, you're creating, you're in a place, and maybe you get transported by creativity and the fact that you don't even realize what time it is anymore. You just feel like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, I hope it offers you a little respite for your day and that you really enjoy what you're doing, because I certainly do. It's something that I love to do. And I think that it's great when one can share what one loves with others. So that's good. So let's keep on giving this a try, seeing where we are with it. Put this little red in here. I simply just taking a rectangle, I'm taking it down on my table right here underneath my base, and I'm just adding a little glue on the whole area. Just don't put a little bit, folks. Put it on every little section of flat paper. Make sure it's completely covered with your glue stick. You don't want to have a dry spot. You want to completely make sure this glue stick is somehow kissed mostly all of that paper. And then you can also look at the light. You can say, now, is it well saturated with glue? And if you see it's completely wet in every single corner, then it's time to put it into place. And then I put it right here and here, and then we're good to go. So here I am working with my sculpture, and I have a couple of different things here. I have a red, kind of playing with this red shape here, and I'm turning it around. Look how it looks from this angle too. So you've used something this afternoon. You worked a little bit with the cardboard with me. So the most important thing is that we have the slits. Let's try something. I'll come back to this in a sec. But we're going to try something else. We're going to use some of the lightweight cardboard here. We'll go back to our sculpture in a second. We have plenty we can do on that, but now I'm going to just show you a slightly different process. The next step is I'm just going to go back to some of these cardboard strips. We have like these rectangles, cardboard you can work with. You can have fun with that. I'm just going to take and I'm going to draw on it so you can see where I'm headed with this. I'm just going to have fun. I'm just going to doodle with my marker. I'm going to make a zigzag shape. And I'm also going to do the same over here, a zigzag. Well, not a real true zigzag. Let's just say it's a wavy shape. If I had a zigzag, it might be more, like to say that it's like a lightning bolt. But this one's not lightning bolt shaped. It's just very flowy, almost like a wave. So not a true ocean wave, but you get the idea. So I'm just going to take my scissor and cut into it. See if I can get this shape to come on out the way I hope it would be. And I'm just going to, when I'm cutting, especially in a curve, I'm also with my non-dominant hand that's not cutting, I twist the paper. I turn it, and cut through it, and maybe I get a decent shape. I mean, it's important. If I show you how to use the scissors, every time you hand the scissors to someone, you always hand them like this, never to the pointy edge to the person. But then as you hold on to them, we have this shape, and I have a nice pair of adult scissors and all, but I think that we can have fun playing with this. We can also join this together. How would we do that? I could turn this in like a crown if I want to. How would I do that? Just go over there and see how you're going to connect this. Just do that yourself. Just take a minute, see how you would connect these two. Take your shape, cut it out, and then know that it's going to become like a little crown. And you want it to somehow hold its shape. How are you going to do that? I'm going to give you a sec to see how that feels. And I'm going to also do it as well. You'll watch me. See how I do it. In the meantime, I'm going to cut the second shape out too. Another wavy shape. I'm hoping that you're able to connect them, because if you do, then you have the idea. Learn from what they did first part of it. Here's my second wavy shape. Make a drawing using a curved line. See how it just kind of comes out like that. So the answer to the question is that I obviously want to make a slit. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to make a little slit over here. And put this over here like this. The most important thing is one has to go on the bottom, and one has to go up here, because they kind of rise on top of each other. And they want to slide right in. So this one, I cut just up. And it may work out that we can just place this one. right in. So without any glue, without any other tape or anything, I actually have a shape that holds on to like a circle. It's okay to see that I have a circle. You can build on that. It's just a slit. Okay, so we're building on that. I'll take my other, I have quite a few of these shapes. I have a lot more to play with here. So I wanted you to see that we can use that circle, something round, to help us out there. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to make a little slit on the bottom here. Make a little slit here. Connect these together. Another form. We have these two shapes. So when we make a little base like that, we can also build on these. So as tiny little sculptures, these become really handy little forms. I just wanted to take a little breakaway just so that you can see that, because I think little towers, but you can build on these pretty easily. I'm just going to use slits. I'm going to use something here. Let's say I'm going to use, okay, I'm going to use something else. I'm going to take this cardboard and I'm going to make a long strip piece. A long piece like that. I'm going to put a little slit in the bottom like that. I'm also going to put a little slit over here. Just did that here a little bit. Anyway, you can't see it so well, but here it is. Just a little slit. Slide these together. So in a way, this is like a mini version of what we made before, except without having to use the X-bat shape. We're using the circle. The circle is a great way to have a base, because of that base, it just sits right down on the paper, and we have a little form here. We can also do another thing. We can do a T shape if we want to. Just cut a little slit here. Tiny little slit. Don't cut too much, just a tiny little slit. And then a tiny little slit here. We'll slide them both in there. So I have a T shape. It's a little bit like an airplane of sorts. But as you can probably understand, we can start to create a lot with this. Now the nice thing about it is it's not tipping over, it's holding its own. And I like the fact that the cardboard is equally weighted around. So it makes it for a very cool shape. And then I can go back and take my my construction paper. I'm going to take some nice color, like orange color. And I'm going to go over here like this and add a little something here. I'm going to add a little tip. Did the same thing with the red on the other side. And all I'm doing is I'm just using the cardboard that I left over from before, and I'm putting this together here and putting the other side now. It's a nice day outside. So nice. So essentially we have these colors. You have the red and the orange. They're on the tip here. I like the fact that the cardboard is flexing a little bit. That really gives me a good feeling about the weight of the material and how it's related to one another. And these are things that you pick up over time, a sensitivity to materials and methods. Like this is simply a material that I was given by one of my friends at work. And when they get, supplies online, they get the piece of cardboard in between the packaging. This is all I'm using, all recycled stuff. So we have so much material. Usually we throw it away every week, right? But you can use that stuff for making sculpture and getting involved in all kinds of creative pursuits, especially if you want to make a really cool like centerpiece or a cool um, type of art piece that's like anything else you've ever made. And I invite you, I really challenge you. I bet you could make all kinds of things that you've never made that makes it possible just because of the fact that you are, in your own opinion, very capable and creative person with a tremendous uh, spirit for invention and transformation, which is what creativity offers us all the time. I'm going to take a long piece of this lime colored paper and I'm just going to wrap it and wrap it more and wrap it again. Looks like a little neck scar. We don't even have a this eye or a face for this yet. What we want to do. I've got my wavy shape here. Could we do something with that? We sure can. I don't want it to be too big. I'm going to take the smaller shape because I don't want this to tip over. Maybe I'm just going to create this, cut it down a little bit. Turn it into that. Make a little slit on the bottom. Make a little slit here. Just slide it right in there. Now this one's over. It's a little bit top heavy. The only way for me to fix that a little bit is to give it a little way for that to hold up. So the best way to do that is to connect it with a little bit of cardboard here. So the one thing we create is something that becomes a little bit though difficult now that this is over like that. If I put another little piece of cardboard here, it might make it not so heavy. See what I can do here. Maybe I can put another piece here. Kind of counterweight. This is going to be important. As we work with our materials, we can take the glue stick and just put another piece of cardboard on this side. And immediately this starts to behave itself again. Now it's weighted down. We have this little head, this shape, another little design here. Oops. It wants to hold itself up here. But we have to think in terms of how do we want to balance it. If I take another little shape of paper, that little base, I can also attach it if I want to. So I have a double base here, a double area, so I'm going to attach that with a little bit of glue. Now it's falling down a little bit, so I've taken my second base here. I'm going to attach it over here like this. Connected both of them like they fit pretty well right here. So I've actually taken both bases, the circles, so it looks like the figure 8 on the bottom. and I put them together so it really makes it stronger. So this can actually hold its own pretty well without completely falling apart. That's why we made two of them, because sometimes when you join them together, the strength helps us to stay upright. So what we have here is a tiny little mobile, kind of like sculpture, and I love the fact that it flexes, that you have this little flex. You can actually, if you want to, you can take it apart. You can take it apart, you can add some other coloring to it, which I can take this part right now, go back over to my markers, have my blue, take some of my Crayola markers, and I'm going to add a little design to it. And it's really neat how the Crayola markers really work very well against this cardboard. Here's some of my design stuff. Just putting some lines on it. And I can do both sides. You don't have to necessarily color the one side. I want you to color the front and the back. So let me show you what that looks like, and then we'll go back to our other little sculpture in a second. So we have this, and then we can just put this right back on here. I'm going to put the slit right on here, just put it right back on here. And it'll fall right back into place again. And then this will come back like this. We'll have to kind of be holding it down here. Sometimes when there's things we want to move and we don't like that, we got to take the Scotch tape and then like kind of tape it in there a little bit so it doesn't want to slide out. Just tape it in there. So by putting it back in, sometimes you put it inside the slits, it definitely has a chance for it to become a little bit more clear. And then what I can do here, I can actually add my little face here. Add your little face to the design. So this is a sense, just a playful. We have the two curves that were rounded, and just going back over that again, that was just a round shape made out of this form. Remember, we can just take the cardboard, make a curvy shape, slice it out. Remember how we made this with the little tabs on both sides. You can make as many of them as you like. You can make a gigantic sculpture, just overlapping these shapes, connect them together with glue stick and tape. But let's go back to our earlier form. As we finish up, now we just have these other curious shapes that are very whimsical and playful, and you have them together here. Just to have our shape here, our cardboard, and then we have this form too. Playing with the round, this is all together based on the round shapes at the bottom. And then we have that beginning of the bat shape here that would go out. We have the half circle and then the top heavy shape. So there's a lot we can do with corrugated cardboard, folks, and I'm so happy that you could join me today here at my studio. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to sharing again someday. Thanks again. Bye-bye.